And let's go to our good friend Alfredo Ortiz. Alfredo is the president and CEO of the Job Creators Network. Alfredo, welcome. Great to have you on this morning.
Hey, good morning, John. Thanks for having me again.
Hey, always a good time. Hey, Alfredo, I just can't believe this. All the economic indicators we have, this economy is booming. We have more jobs available than people to fill them. We've got wages going up now for for 3 straight quarters, 9 months in a row. Wages rising. The president in a recent Zogby poll has got 25% approval rating from African Americans because they're better off economically than they've been in a long time. All the indicators of the economy are phenomenal, and business investment is up. Small business is way up. And what is the deal with these people on TV trying to scare investors in America into a made-up recession? What is up with this, Alfredo?
Yeah, it's crazy, and especially on the left, John. I mean, it's frustrating, right? Because I guess this is part of their I call it now the 3R strategy, right? They tried, first of all, they tried the whole Russia collusion. That didn't work. They tried racism. That hasn't worked. And now they're trying recession. They're trying everything possible to try to hurt the president, obviously on a re-elect, including being incredibly unpatriotic and including bringing down, basically by jawboning, to your point, the economy, which is still red hot, is doing extremely well. All it comes down to is that this is an inconvenient truth. This economy, this booming economy that has been triggered by decreasing taxes, and by really taking regulations out of the picture and bringing down a lot of the red tape that existed before, that has all led, to this booming economy. That was the work of President Trump, and that's what they're trying to do. Is they're jawboning the economy down because it's an inconvenient truth. They can't run against that kind of economy. They can't run against the numbers, so they're just trying to make up and force the economy basically by spooking the consumer into a recession.
Well, the only thing they have is they've got here's the thing why it's dangerous. Okay, it's one thing for pundits on MSNBC that everybody that is in the know laughs at because they're trying to do it, or Bill Maher or whatever on the various networks. But when you've got the Wall Street Journal doing it, and you've got Fox News, Neil Cavuto doing it, and it's all because of the president's from that perspective. Alfredo, it's all because of the president's trade policies. The president finally standing up to China. Yeah, you look at economic indicators. There is no inflation since these tariffs have been in place. So they hate these tariffs so much because they're afraid that it's going to hurt their quarterly income bonus propositions. They're such short-term thinkers that the Wall Street is propagandizing this the president's China policy as the bane of the economy, like the whole world is going to crash because a handful of farmers in Iowa can't sell a soybean, and so that is part of
and John,
what this
to that
is.
point, really quickly though, on the farmers' part, I mean, look at the most recent surveys and polls of farmers. Right, almost 80% of farmers in the Midwest support the president. They understand that yes, you know what, they may actually be right now. They may not be exactly where they want to be financially, right? They are being hurt somewhat, but they support him because they know this has to be done. For years, for decades, this has been building and has been passing both in Republican hands and in Democratic hands, right, at the White House. It's been done. And this president now has stood up to China and is realigning the way it should have been done. And the farmers are supporting him. 80% of them say, you know what, we get it. We support you, Mr. President.
Well, that's it. I mean, farmers are the most patriotic Americans we have because they're growing the food basket, the food supply for America. And what the president, Alfredo, is really attempting to do here is level the playing field, but the ultimate objective is not to raise money through tariffs. The ultimate objective, Alfredo, with the president's trade policies, whether it be China or NAFTA or the European Union, right, is to bring the supply chain back to the United States, to bring the manufacturing back to the United States, to bring production back here to this country, which then, what does it do? Creates opportunity, creates jobs, and creates competition. because
I mean,
prices
that's right.
haven't so far. They might go up in the short term, but then like nobody is more dialed into small businesses than you are, Alfredo, Ortiz, and the Job Creators Network, right? You're at the front engine of this, right? You give
Yeah.
small business people an opportunity to compete. What are they going to do? They're going to open business up and compete, which then lowers prices for everybody, right?
Yeah, that's absolutely right. And John, remember that since President Trump was elected, 500,000 manufacturing jobs have been created in this country. Those are the same jobs that President Obama said would go away permanently, would never come back, right? Well, they weren't coming back because we were shipping everything off to China, right? And so you're absolutely right that President Trump is trying to realign that supply chain and bring those manufacturing jobs, bring other jobs back to this country, which we really ended up just shipping and exporting out, because of what we had before. And so you're absolutely right that the tariffs are really right now just being used to realign the supply chain. And that's critical and it's necessary. And there is some pain that is going to have to be had. And mostly right now, the farmers are feeling it. Some manufacturers are feeling it. But all of this has to be done because this is the time to do. When you have this kind of numbers, when you have 3.1% GDP growth, when you have the job numbers that we're seeing, that the last one we saw was, over 165,000 jobs created. I mean, over 6 million jobs overall being created since President Trump has been reelected. This is the time to do it, John. This is the only time that we can do this, right? If not now, when?
Well, he's got to do it. Look, and he said this the other day, Alfredo. He said, "You know how easy it would be for me to just simply make a bad deal with them." And then, and that's really what everybody wants. They just want a deal, right? It doesn't matter and remember, this is the president who said, right, no deal is better than a bad deal, right? Don't make a bad deal.
Yeah.
But he said, you know how easy it would be for me to just say, okay, we have a deal. China's going to buy soybeans and there's no more tariffs and everybody's happy. And rah, rah, what a fabulous job I did. Stocks are up, 401ks are up, economy is up. Yay, right? He could do that tomorrow, but it's the wrong thing to do. So what he said is, I'm standing up to them, and it's going to take a short-term hit to get long-term gain, which is to bring our production supply chain back to the U.S., which gives small businesses an opportunity to compete. And you're going to see startups in fields that you wouldn't ordinarily see. Let's take a simple thing. I'll just give everybody a simple example that they can get, right? We're just moving, Alfredo, into a new studio in South Richmond, right? So we got to buy lights, right?
Right.
So the electrician comes over and he's like, well, you know what you really need to do is invest in LED lighting, LED, right? The nice panels of LED lighting, going to save money. Short term going to cost you a little more. Long term, it's the right thing to do. So you take LED lighting. 99% of LED lighting, you know where it's being manufactured? China. You know why? Because they're subsidizing production. So U.S. companies that were providing it can't compete, right? Because prices are half of what they can manufacture for in the U.S. because the Chinese Communist government is subsidizing LED. So
that's right.
The prices are half. So that's where the suppliers buy them from. Now that the tariffs have hit, there's LED lighting companies, LED, popping up in the U.S. because now they got an even playing field. They've hired people. And that's where we were able to buy them from a U.S. manufacturer. And instead of paying double, I paid maybe 15% or 20% more. There's a perfect example. Maybe it was a $2,000 sale, but we were able to buy it from a U.S. company that now manufactures them, Alfredo, instead of a Chinese company. Does that make sense to everybody?
Yeah, I mean, and that's kind of stuff that's crazy. John, we've got, in fact, we've got a member. She doesn't mind us talking about this. Her name's Nicole Walter. She has a small manufacturing company in Wakanda, Illinois. This is, family-owned businesses. Past hands onto her. She's the president CEO of this. Employs about 20 employees. Now, she tells me that quality is her number one advantage when trying to sell internationally. But she says it's too hard to compete against foreign manufacturers who can sell this at lower prices because, exactly to your point, protectionist policies and the subsidization that they're doing to basically try to prevent her from being able to compete effectively internationally. She just can't do that. And so, in addition, we have foreign competitors who can pay much lower wages, and don't have as many regulatory costs as she does. It's just almost impossible to compete internationally and expand her business. And this is, 20 employees. Exactly your point. A small business, right in the middle of our country.
Wow. I tell you what, it is amazing how great this economy is doing and the nonsense we have to put up with. I want to get your comments here on a clip. Kara, let's key up cut one. Here's President Trump saying that the Federal Reserve raised interest rates too fast, too furious. And I just want to get your reaction here, Alfredo, because I know both of us think that Jerome Powell needs to lower rates back to the way they were so that we can compete internationally. Kara, let's run for Alfredo Ortiz, cut one, Trump.
When you look at what happens, look at what's going on over there. They borrow money. They actually get paid to borrow money. And we have to compete with that. So if you look at what's happening around the world, Jay Powell and the Federal Reserve have totally missed the call. I was right, and just about everybody admits that. I was right. He did quantitative tightening. He shouldn't have done that. He raised interest rates too fast, too furious. And we have a normalized rate. You call it that. And now we have to go the other direction. We'll see if he does it. If he does it, you'll see a rocket ship. You'll see a boom. If he does it, we have a very strong economy. But we could be in a place that this nation was seldom at if we had interest rates cuts by the Federal Reserve. The Federal Reserve has let us down. They missed the call. They raised them too fast. They raised it too high, and they did quantitative tightening. They shouldn't have done the tightening, and they shouldn't have raised them to the extent. We could have had some raises, but nothing like they did.
Mr. Trump,
What do you think, Alfredo?
John, we've been calling this one all along as well. Back in December, when the rate hike happened back then, we were very, very disappointed with the Fed calling that. There was absolutely no data that was pointing to that. And, right now, we're saying for the September meeting coming up, we wanted to see a half point rate cut out of the Fed because we think it's necessary. Right now, our interest rates, where they are internationally, we're getting killed. We are getting killed by that because there are other countries out there, the majority of other industrialized countries, where their rates are well below ours. And quite frankly, it's just making the dollar so attractive in inflows that it's making our goods expensive. And so, we've got to make sure that we've got this cut happening. It's hurting small businesses right now in the sense that, they're not as interested in borrowing money to be able to invest in their businesses, and because it just doesn't make sense right now. Where the rates are right now should never have been. We said that back in December. And we're looking for a half rate cut in September. We think it's warranted at this point. Inflation is well in check. It's below the 2% mark, that the Fed looks at. And so there's ample opportunity right now to be able to make this kind of a cut.
You're on the John Fredericks Radio Network, Trucking the Truth Across America. We're live at Colonial Downs Racetrack in New Kent. Post time today, 5 o'clock. We're with Alfredo Ortiz. He's President and Chief Executive Officer, CEO of the Job Creators Network, the number one organization in America, advocacy organization for small businesses. You want to go to jobcreatorsnetwork.com, jobcreatorsnetwork.com, and they're doing a fantastic job. What is it going to take for Jerome Powell to do this, in your estimation?
It's we're kind of back to where we were almost again back in December. He's got to be able to do the right thing. He knows what the right thing is, but he keeps saying, well, because I'm, the president's kind of jawboning, maybe I won't take that kind of a rate cut because I don't want to be seen as not being independent. This has nothing to do with being independent or not being independent. It's about making the right decisions. We know what it is. He has to make that half rate cut. I think it's just having continued conversations about this leading up to that September meeting. John, folks like yourself and others, we need to have people talking about this the way it should be, which is having that cut happen. And but you've got the media on the left that isn't going to really allow for that, isn't going to be pushing for that. So you're not going to be hearing that much at all. But folks like yourself, John, we just got to keep on having these kinds of conversations up until that September meeting.
Well, look, there needs to be another rate cut, and like the president has said, he's also exploring the idea of cutting payroll taxes. And again, when you cut payroll taxes, that's not politically expedient because no one sees that. I mean, if you want to do something for politics, you're gonna give it some kind of a tax rebate check, right? That's what people see. When you cut payroll taxes, people see it for a week and then like they don't notice it, right? Because they're getting another $25 a week. The first week it's like, well, I got another $25, but then they get it and then they spend it and then it helps the economy. But look, the president we use the term jawboning. I mean, he's jawboning Powell. Powell's independent. But Alfredo Ortiz, this is no different than what Obama did with Janet Yellen when she was there. And when Obama called for quantitative easing because he had a no-growth economy. He had 0.5% GDP growth. So you had to have quantitative easing to stop the economy from going into a recession. This is no different. No different than what Obama did. Obama does it, and everybody says, wow, what a visionary, right? Trump does it, and they're like, oh, my God, he's interfering with the Federal Reserve. It doesn't matter what this guy does, right? He's doing the exact same thing Obama did, and no difference. And both Yellen and Powell are completely independent, and he's trying to jawbone him into doing the right thing, just like Barack Obama did.
Right. Yeah. Absolutely. And we know that this has to happen, John. I mean, if we don't have this kind of cut, it's just going to really send our stocks, first of all, our stock market into a total frenzy, which it's not something we need nor want. But again, when you look at the left is really trying to do everything possible to make sure that we talk ourselves into a recession. And when you've got an economy that's 70% consumer driven, that's why they're targeting the consumer. They're trying to spook the consumer into this recession. We can start negating some of that possibility by having this rate cut. So Powell has to make this thing happen. Again, half a point rate cut at a minimum right now is what we should be looking at in September. It's just that easy.
It's just that's all he has to do. It makes sense. And but again, we're almost out of time, Alfredo. But just amazing that we've got political pundits and others, politicians, wishing and hoping and scaring and spooking people into the country into a recession, so that people can suffer, so they can defeat Trump in 2020. I mean, is this about the sickest thing you've ever experienced? It's sick.
It's horrible. Again,
sick.
It's unpatriotic, John. It's just unbelievable.
Totally.
And we should be celebrating this economy. The left and the right should be celebrating this economy, not trying to talk it into a recession the way they are. It's unbelievable.
Oh, you're so right. Alfredo, hey, thank you, man. We're out of time. Hey, can I give a shout out to Elaine Parker?
Yeah, sure.
Can I do that? I tell you what, Elaine Parker is she was my guest host for the day of the diner. We had a 6-hour show in New Hampshire. Alfredo, she's the spokesperson for Job Creators Network. She did a phenomenal job. This is the second time she's done one of these with me. She was in Orlando when the president announced for 6 hours. Now we're going to go to a rally in North Carolina. With your approval, we're going to have her back. So it's like kind of the John Elaine Roadshow. But, we do 6 hours at these events, 6 a.m. to noon, and she was absolutely fantastic. So thanks
great.
for that.
That's great. No, she's fantastic. I'm glad it worked out, and she's great. She may be your permanent sub whenever you're not around.
I think we're going to have to make that happen. I think I'm grooming her to guest host my show. She's not that far away, so I think I'm going to make it happen. Alfredo, thanks for being with us. More information, go to jobcreatorsnetwork.com. You're on the John Fredericks Radio Network, trucking the truth across America.